Hello, good morning and welcome. It's Thursday, July the 17th. Today, we are a political podcast in search of good news. My name is Anne McElvoy from Politico.
And I'm Sam Coates of Sky News. Welcome to Politics at Sam and Anne's, the podcast that gives you everything you need to know about the day ahead in British politics in around 20 minutes. That's right, we're on the hunt for positives, such as the news that Keir Starmer might just be about in the next 2 or 3 weeks to strike a deal to get rid of 10% US steel tariffs on goods going from UK to the US, which would be a massive lifeline for an industry which is already part controlled by you and me.
And I am all for dwelling on the positive side of life, but it doesn't feel entirely like you, Sam. I think that the role of glass half empty has generally been played by my learned friend on this podcast. So, yeah, why good news all of a sudden?
Oh, well, I suppose, Anne, I just woke up this morning needing something to counterbalance, I don't know whether you're getting this, the complaining. There's so much doom-mongering and glum-bucketry about at the moment. It's the summer season in Westminster, receptions galore. You know that. I saw you at some one of those such receptions last night as well. And I don't know about you, maybe it's just me, but everywhere you go, there's members of our political class complaining over their cocktails, complaining about a lack of vision in either of the main parties, complaining about the lack of plan, complaining about the media, that's basically me and you, complaining about the suspensions of Labour MPs, complaining that they don't get enough attention if they're in the smaller parties. So I woke up wanting to look on the sunnier side of life. Is it that bad? Hence seizing on this steel tariff news. And also hoping that when Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, meets the BMA later today, maybe he gets a breakthrough as well and stops the strikes.
So perky this morning, Sam. Complaining over cocktails is actually my favourite pastime. but I think you are right. It's because we get to the end, going towards the recess. There is a sense across the parties, but say MPs do not feel happy. Well, we might dive into a bit about why that is before you tell them to buck up a bit later. 3 more days to go to the end of term in Parliament. That means 3 more editions, including this one of our daily podcast, till we join MPs in a break.
We're not going with them. Be absolutely clear.
Speak for yourself. No, we're not going with them. We're definitely not going with them. We get a little break, though, don't we? We get a break from the daily shows, but not for long, because in August we will have a box set for you to make sure you're in the loop. So what's in the box, Sam?
That's right. Every week or so in August, you'll get a new episode dropping, a 25-minute deep dive on the term ahead in British politics in a different subject each time. So health, education, the economy. And we're going to reach for the help of a different expert each time as well. The idea is that either just because you're that kind of funster, you listen to us once a week from your sun lounger, or more likely, just before you go back to work at the start of September, you absolutely panic about what's coming up, feel totally uninformed, haven't read a paper or listened to a news bulletin in weeks. And so you binge all of them to get back up to speed. I think people are going to do the latter. But that's where the idea of a box set comes from.
Well, summer might be here, but politics and the pace of events is not slowing down. Quite the contrary. Helter-skelter at the moment. First official visit by the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz since he got the job. Today, he'll sit down with Keir Starmer.
The pair are due to sign a wide-ranging bilateral cooperation treaty, which includes language on mutual defence, first announced in August 2024, following talks between Starmer and his predecessor, then German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Scholz has gone, Friedrich Merz is in, and Starmer will be expected later today to participate in a signing ceremony and a mini press conference as well. So we'll do more on that in a bit because it's Anne's specialist subject.
Oh, goodness, you don't know how long I could go on about bilateral treaties with Germany, but I promise the listeners we will keep it relatively short and put the verb at the end. Before we get there, the Prime Minister will deliver a speech at the government's first civil society summit. No superlative too bold for this event. The government is saying it marks a major moment in reshaping how government works with communities to harness the dynamism, innovation and trust of civil society. And what is exciting about this is that the press release talks about a revival of, drumroll, the PM's missions.
Whoa!
Sorry, Sam just bit my hand off there. The PM's missions.
I just pause for a second to think of the civil servant who was typing all those superlatives, the finger hovering over the key. Can we call this innovation and dynamism and just those adjectives? Do you think there was any kind of irony as they typed some of them? Anyway, some people thought the missions were all but dead, Anne. Are you saying that's not true?
I'm about to find out whether it's true or not, but certainly we're going to find out how much meat there is on the missions as we go through today. But certainly there are sessions built around them and led by cabinet ministers, which would imply a desire to bring them back to life or back from the margins. Part of the Safer Streets mission, Jess Phillips is announcing the £53 million investment. Well, we'll certainly find out how much meat there is on these missions as we go through the morning, but certainly there are sessions led by cabinet ministers based on them, so that would imply a desire to bring them back from the margins. I think there's been quite a lot to and fro in Downing Street in communications about whether it was a good idea or not, but here we are, part of Safer Streets mission. Jess Phillips announcing a 53 million investment to expand the Drive project across England and Wales, the multi-agency programme designed to intervene and stop high harm, high risk serial perpetrators of domestic abuse from offending. So you see something there that the government can say it's very concrete. You can look at the results, something that you can analyse that is going to really show that they're serious about things that matter in real life. I suppose that is the force of this.
Yeah, Jess Phillips is on the morning round this morning. I had a little tidbit, Anne. Apparently, the Today programme offered Jess Phillips to talk about this announcement and turned her down. But then, yesterday afternoon, Keir Starmer suspended 4 of his MPs, so they invited Jess Phillips back on again. So I think the idea, inside the Home Office, they don't expect that the announcement itself is going to get much airtime later through the course of today, because all that Labour ministers are going to be asked about, I think, this morning is that surprise decision by the Prime Minister to basically have the Prime Minister flex his muscles. Now, I don't think that I would, if I was being completely honest, given everything over the last few weeks, I don't think I completely anticipated that this week would be the moment that Number 10 decided to embark on a trial of strength, with the Prime Minister pitting himself against his own party, given that, in the last few weeks, we've had one of those and he lost. But Keir Starmer seems determined to have a do I look tough in this moment. And that's what happened yesterday afternoon.
Certainly did. I think it caught rather a lot of people, not just you, Sam, off guard. And you're referring there, of course, to that decision by the leadership to suspend 4 Labour MPs over persistent breaches of discipline. That is the way it's formally described. So out of the 130 plus MPs who rebelled against the welfare cuts in a letter and were active around the Commons about their opposition, and the 50 plus who finally voted against the welfare bill when it went through the Commons last week. 4 have lost the whip. They must sit now as independents. And they are Rachel Maskell, Brian Leishman, Neil Duncan-Jordan and Chris Hinchliffe. He stripped another 3 MPs of trade envoy roles. And as news of this discipline started to seep out yesterday, someone supposedly on the Prime Minister's side was briefing the Times to saying that MPs had been suspended for, and I quote, persistent knobheadery, which is a new category to me, my lord.
Persistent knobheadery. Sometimes I wonder whether persistent knobheadery is what they say about you and me, but behind our backs, particularly me, Anne. I thought, before we get into the discussion, a quickie guide to the 4 suspended MPs. Rachel Maskell, probably the best known, the York MP, care worker, trade unionist. She's often described as being part of John McDonnell's Socialist Campaign Group, but she's not and never has been. She's kind of on the edge of that gang. Brian Leishman, he is in the Socialist Campaign Group of left-wing MPs, voted against the welfare reforms, but he's also the MP for Grangemouth and has really been quite grumpy after the closure of the Grangemouth oil refinery. Neil Duncan-Jordan, MP for Poole, he organised the rebellion against the cuts to winter fuel payments. Of course, that's now government policy, as well as rallying against the welfare reforms. And Hinchcliffe, the MP for North East Hertfordshire, led a rebellion against a planning bill, which gave the government a bit of a heart attack earlier this year. All 3 of the three of the four rather were elected last year. So that's three of them are new intake MPs. So they're kind of being suspended yesterday by the same team that basically put them in the first place, more or less. It's a bit weird.
So the logic of this, if you should reflect Keir Starmer's view, as well as quite a lot of crossness among Labour MPs we kept bumping into last night around town and various things. It was the main thing they wanted to talk about and vent about, complaining over cocktails, as you put it. But the view from the Prime Minister and his allies is that there has not been much of a carrot for those who stayed loyal to him and to the government in that very difficult welfare bill and welfare and disability reform, that they're getting a lot of heat from constituents and they're sticking it out because, as far as number 10, the Prime Minister sees it, that's what you need. You need discipline, you need the party to go along with difficult decisions. That also, not uncoincidentally, shows up the authority of one Keir Starmer. So this is intended, as someone who'd been in touch with the Prime Minister directly about the plan, said, look, it is intended really to encourage people to be loyal rather than as a punishment meeting, though I have to say, if you're on that list or feel loyal to those MPs, of course you see it as a punishment meeting. And it struck me as well that losing the baubles of favour, these trade envoy roles, which I think, frankly, are a bit pointless, but they're minorly prestigious. They're often given to people where you've got a guilty conscience, but you don't really know what else to do with them, or that you think they've got a particular link to another region or another country. You haven't got a real ministerial role for them, but, hey, why not? You can get to be trade envoy. To remove that, I have not seen that used in that way before, as a way of imposing discipline. As one MP put it, though, he feels he needs, Keir Starmer, to wield a big stick, but where is the carrot? What do you think, Sam?
I'm going to level with you, and I am very, very confused. And I was thinking about this morning, and I've got 5 reasons why I'm very confused. I'm going to go through each one in order, but after each one, I just want you to say whether you agree or disagree in a sentence. Okay, right. Reason 1, I'm confused because this is meant to be a show of strength, right? But most people have literally never heard of them, right? Rachel Meskel is a bit well known, but the rest, well, I mean, perhaps actually there's one of them that I didn't even know existed before yesterday, if I'm being honest. So if it's a demonstration of strength intended to impress the public, then I'm not sure they're going to notice.
I don't think it's about the public. I think it is about MPs. Just as I reflected, I think it is about saying there are reasons why you should be loyal to us. You cannot take for granted that we expect your loyalty. So I think on that one, I'm going to say it's about MPs, not about the public.
Okay, well, that is my second point why I'm confused. If it's about installing discipline in the Parliamentary Labour Party, well, I'm confused about that. Surely the aim of Keir Starmer right now should be to bind more closely together the Parliamentary Labour Party rather than to try and divide it. After the welfare rebellion, the promise was to listen. Keir Starmer gave interviews saying that he was going to listen and he was going to sort of create policy more sympathetic to his party. This is the opposite approach. So you've got a lurch and you've got a parliamentary party who are hearing the opposite of what they were promised.
Except the people he's saying that he wants to listen to, and he is doing outreach and drinks parties and things that he probably can barely fit in the schedule to meet more MPs, that reconnection with MPs, particularly around policy. And he's taking a bit of advice on this, I happen to know, in a health space from a sort of friendly think tank to say, look, you've got to reconnect policy to your backbenches, otherwise you're going to keep kind of losing. So I think the message there is, yes, sure, we want to listen, but we're going to choose the people, or the MPs, sorry, they are also people, we're going to choose the MPs that we listen to, and if you cross us, you won't be in that group. Selective listening.
Okay, but then the third reason I'm confused, they've been suspended in part for their role in the welfare rebellion, fair enough. They've been suspended in part for backing what is now government policy, right? It was only yesterday morning, Anne, that the Work and Pension Secretary, Liz Kendall, said that the government's welfare reforms were now in the right place. Yet the people who helped get them in the right place are now suspended. Suspended with agreeing with government policy is an odd look. Surely you'll give me that.
Well, I think I probably have to grant you that, or on grounds of logical consistency, which is an irritating trend trend these days in Sam Coates' remarks. Yes, I'm going to give you logical consistency on that, but it's the way that they got there, isn't it? They're being punished not for agreeing with government policy, which is in the right place now, said Liz Kendall, who must have ground down quite a lot of teeth enamel saying that, because she would have preferred something else. But yeah, these people, I suppose the message is the way you behaved was not the way we wanted to get to the right place. But okay, I've granted you that one.
Okay, I'm going to do fourth and fifth very quickly. Fourthly, I'm confused at the who. The most prominent is Rachel Maskell, as I said. And she was on Sky within minutes of the suspension, looking genuinely surprised and really rather upset. Now, there's absolutely no doubt she was a ringleader in this rebellion. 8 days ago, she authored an article in the New Statesman headline, How to Organise a Government Rebellion. So I think that's pretty much case closed. But she is of the soft left, not the hard left. And do you know who else is on the soft left, Anne?
Keir Starmer. Bingo.
It does feel as if you're slightly coming for people who have dangerously similar views to you. Look, I understand this is all about drawing hard lines and showing who's on my team and who isn't. But my goodness, some of that line looks like it goes awfully close to people that you really wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of if you're Prime Minister. And then one thing, finally, 3 other MPs, as we said, Rosina Alan-Khan, Bel Ribera Adi, and Mohamed Yassin have been sacked from their trade envoy jobs, right? They do retain the party whip. But here's the thing that hurts your head. If you are a Lib Dem trade envoy, like Sarah Olney, or if you're a Tory trade envoy, as George Freeman was until a couple of weeks ago when he was suspended, you do not have to obey the Labour whip, and you can continue to keep your trade envoy role. But if you're in the Labour Party and you're a trade envoy, you do. And it's just one of those mad inconsistencies where if you're in another party, you can keep your trade envoy role, but if you're in the governing party, you can't. I mean, that just doesn't make sense at all. So there are my 5 reasons why I'm completely confused.
I totally disagree with you on that last point. So, we agreed, I think, points 3 and 4, that there was just a sort of mudge and smudge. Keir Starmer slightly disciplining his former self because he was pretty. Actually, Keir Starmer's quite often at war with his old self. But I do disagree with you on the last one. I think using these trade envoy roles in the way, as I said a bit earlier, is a bit. I think it's silly. If you're going to have them, they should just do what they do. But I mean, obviously, it's different if you're Labour, right? If you're Labour and you don't obey the whip, you can't impose the whip on the Tories or the Lib Dems. So to me, that doesn't seem like an inconsistency. If you're going to have this role, as minor as it is, and then you're going to use or abuse it, but you can instill discipline on your own ranks, not on other people's. But I think we just see that differently.
3 out of 5 isn't bad. I'm going to claim that as a win. Right, big day for you, Anne, because the German Chancellor is in town. There is nobody better to tell us why it matters. So off you go.
Oh, you've raised the bar there. Yes, Starmer gets a break from all this infighting and from that very bitter and ongoing fallout from the MOD and the Afghanistan resettlement debacle. He gets a break to entertain Friedrich Merz. We know that he has a good relationship. They're getting on and meeting to sign a new bilateral treaty that promises tighter action on smuggling gangs, more expanded defence cooperation to support defence exports from the British point of view. I'm sure the Germans are telling their media the same things. And closer industrial ties overall. Having had a look at this agreement, Sam, and covered in quite a lot of detail also in our Welt colleagues in Berlin at Axel Springer, when you look into it, it hasn't really dealt with the big trade barriers and still the frictions that have arisen after Brexit, and which have really been difficult for UK-German trade relations. But it kind of tries to walk around everything that's difficult and to do with the EU without reopening that whole question for Keir Starmer, which you can well imagine he just does not want anything that talks about formal ties with the EU. But it does then try to deal with things like defence, with migration, and support better relations in research, technology, etc. Sort of like by doing a bilateral sort of relationship, even I think a bit deeper than the French one, that just goes around the issue of the EU. It just says, we can sort this out directly as a trend in the way that we're doing these deals under Keir Starmer. I think that is quite interesting. And he also has a workaround too on the youth mobility scheme, because it was something we were never going to be able to sign up to. The Germans really wanted. But there's a kind of watered down a kids version in which you're going to find pavements full of German school children, because it's going to be a lot easier, far less paperwork and red tape to bring school groups back to the UK. So that was the landing zone on that.
It's not quite a nothing burger of a treaty, but you're not sure it amounts to that much?
No, it's not a nothing burger. It's just like it's kind of a lot of salads. You know, it's like the burger is a bit thin. Yes, I did say in a column that I've written for my German colleagues at TfL that it was just like one of those things where you just get lots of side dishes at the salad bar. You get, well, I'm nearly full, you know. But I think there is, you're right. It's not intended, I think, it's intended to show that this relationship is going somewhere. It's getting warmer. It's getting closer. There is this guarantee, which I think we should come back to on the podcast maybe over summer and discuss, which we're now signing all these deals with Germany and France, saying we'll support each other if we are threatened, which are quite sort of vague, but they're like alternatives to NATO Article 5. But they are in there, and for historic reasons, if we've had more of a history of being at war with Germany than doing huge treaties about defending each other directly, and not just through NATO, that is quite an interesting development. Now, what it would really mean in practice, I think, is left reassuringly vague. Fact is, there have been about 18 senior level meetings to get this summit together. It's taken ages, right? We are a bit difficult. The Germans are very thorough. It's a funny combination, but hey, here we are. And the relationship between Friedrich Merz and Starmer is remarkably warm. They've got a lot of the same problems.
Now, I have to say, I thought that was a very chirpy edition of Politics at Sam and I only mention that because there were one or two people as I was leaving the Politico party late last night at 11:10 who asked whether it would be as chirpy as it normally was. Well, I hope we have delivered, because we always do. We don't let you down, whatever time we got to bed. So thank you very much indeed for listening. Lots of vim, vigour and energy. So yeah, you just have to suck that up, whoever was talking to me late last night. And we will see you again on Monday for Politics at Sam and after the weekend.
Thank you for that full disclosure, Sam.
Bye-bye.